They say Las Vegas never sleeps, but what they don't tell you is that sometimes it's because something else is awake. Behind the neon lights and champagne toasts, there are shadows, watching, waiting. And once you've seen them, once they've noticed you, the city doesn't let you leave the same. This is the story of our honeymoon in Las Vegas. The story of how my wife and I checked into a hotel suite on the Strip and discovered that paradise can turn into a nightmare the moment the lights go out. Good evening. Tonight I want to take you on a trip, not to a quiet cabin or a haunted house, but to the heart of the city that never stops spinning. A place built on sin, desire, and illusion. You've probably heard the phrase, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas," but I'm here to tell you, that's not a slogan. It's a warning. My wife and I had just gotten married 2 days before. We wanted our honeymoon to be unforgettable, something wild and glamorous, something that screamed freedom after months of wedding planning. Las Vegas felt perfect. The lights, the noise, the energy, everything about it made us feel like we had stepped into another world. The taxi dropped us off in front of a towering hotel on the Strip, the kind of place where the marble floors gleamed under chandeliers, and the sound of slot machines never stopped ringing. We were laughing, holding hands, drunk on love and excitement. At check-in, the receptionist smiled a little too wide when she saw our names. She said, honeymooners. We have just the suite for you." Her words should have made me happy, but instead, something about her tone made me uneasy, like she knew something I didn't. We rode the elevator up to the 21st floor. The hallway stretched long and silent, too quiet compared to the chaos downstairs. At the very end was our room, Suite 2109. When I slid the keycard into the door, the lock clicked open with a heavy sound, almost like a vault door creaking. And when we stepped inside, I felt watched. The suite was gorgeous, glass windows overlooking the Strip, a giant bed, a minibar stocked with champagne. But it felt wrong. Too cold, too still, like the room had been waiting for us. My wife laughed it off. "Babe, it's Vegas. We're supposed to feel dizzy. That's the whole point." I forced a smile, but deep down, I couldn't shake it. That night, as we unpacked and poured our first drinks, the city lights blinked outside like 1,000 eyes. I remember thinking, Vegas is alive. I just didn't realize how literally true that was. The first night started out like a dream. We ordered room service, popped champagne, and sat by the window watching the Strip glow like a galaxy of neon. From up there, the city didn't look real. The casinos, the shows, the lights stretching forever into the desert. It was like staring at a giant machine, always moving, always hungry. But sometime around 2 a.m, I woke up. At first, I thought it was just the sound of the city. Vegas never goes quiet, not even for a second. But the noise wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the room. A faint scratching. Slow, deliberate, coming from the wall behind the headboard. I sat up, my heart pounding. My wife stirred beside me. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. She mumbled sleepily, "Probably the neighbors," and rolled over. But something about the sound wasn't normal. It wasn't random. It was steady, like someone tracing lines into the wall with their fingernails. I turned on the lamp. The sound stopped instantly. The silence was heavy, pressing, like the room itself was holding its breath. I tried to laugh it off, took a sip of water, and eventually lay back down. But it wasn't long before I drifted into a restless sleep, and that's when the second disturbance came. I had a dream. At least, I think it was a dream. I was standing in the hallway outside our suite. The same endless corridor we'd walked down earlier. All the lights were off except for one flickering bulb above me. At the far end, I saw a figure. A woman. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and her dress shimmered like wet fabric. She didn't move. She just stood there, her head tilted slightly, watching me. I tried to call out, but my voice wouldn't come. My legs felt like they were sinking into the carpet. And then, just as the flickering bulb went dark, she was suddenly closer. Only a few feet away now. I could see her face. Her eyes were pure black. Not just the pupils, but everything. Hollow, endless. That's when I woke up, gasping, drenched in sweat. Beside me, my wife sat up too, clutching the blanket. Her voice shook. Did you see her too? My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Her eyes filled with tears. I saw a woman, in the hallway, watching us. The champagne, the lights, the joy of the honeymoon, it all evaporated in that moment. Vegas wasn't just a city of illusions. Something real, something dark, had followed us into that room. The next morning, we both tried to pretend nothing had happened. After all, it was Vegas. People lose track of time, have strange dreams, let their imaginations run wild. We told ourselves it was just exhaustion, jet lag, or too much champagne. But the hotel room felt different. Have you ever walked into a place and immediately felt the air shift? Like a weight pressing down, invisible but undeniable? That's how it felt inside our suite. The sunlight streaming in through the window looked off somehow, dimmer, like the desert haze outside had thickened into something unnatural. We went down to the casino, tried to laugh it off. Slot machines, roulette tables, neon lights, the whole circus of Vegas trying to swallow us in distraction. For a while, it worked. We drank, we gambled, we watched tourists stumble past in glitter and feathers. But when we came back to the room that evening, the atmosphere had only grown heavier. My wife went to freshen up in the bathroom. I tossed my jacket onto the chair, and that's when I noticed something strange. The mirror above the minibar was fogged. Not a little smudge, not condensation from drinks, but fogged, as though someone had been breathing on it. And right in the center of that fog was the faint outline of a handprint. I wiped it away quickly, trying not to alarm her. But a chill had already settled into my spine. Later that night, things grew worse. We were lying in bed when I heard the sound again. That slow, deliberate scratching, but this time, it wasn't from behind the headboard. It was coming from the bathroom. The door was cracked open just an inch, and I could see the faintest sliver of darkness beyond. My wife whispered, "Don't." But I couldn't ignore it. I slid out of bed, walked across the carpet, and pushed the door open. The bathroom was empty, silent, but the mirror wasn't right. Our reflections were there, yes, but they didn't move like we did. My reflection was smiling. I swear to you, my face in the glass was smiling back at me, even though I wasn't. Its lips stretched wider, too wide, revealing blackened gums and teeth that weren't my own. I stumbled back, slamming the door. My wife was shaking, clutching the blankets. She said she'd seen something too. Not in the mirror, but at the edge of the bed. A figure, crouched low, watching us with eyes as black as tar. The rest of the night was a blur of terror. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. The lamp flickered even though it wasn't loose. Once, for a split second, every channel on the TV turned to static, and in that static, I swear I saw her face again, the black-eyed woman from the hallway. We barely slept. In the morning, we packed our bags, desperate to check out. But when we rolled our suitcases to the door, the handle wouldn't turn, the lock wasn't stuck, the mechanism wasn't jammed. It was as if the door itself wouldn't open. My wife pulled harder, shaking it until tears welled in her eyes. I tried the deadbolt, the security latch, nothing. We were trapped. And that's when we heard the knock. 3 soft taps, coming from the inside of the closet. We froze. Neither of us moved. The air in the room grew freezing, our breath visible in the dim light. Slowly, the closet door creaked open on its own. Empty. But the smell that poured out was overwhelming. Damp earth, mildew, something rotten, like the air from a grave. We didn't speak. We didn't dare. But in that silence, we both knew the truth. Whatever was in this hotel with us wasn't just haunting, it was hunting. And it wasn't going to let us leave. The longer we stayed trapped in that room, the more it felt like reality itself was bending. The walls looked closer somehow, the corners darker than they should have been. Even the sound of the air conditioning felt wrong, too slow, too deep, like it was breathing instead of blowing. We sat on the bed in silence, clutching each other, until my wife whispered, "She doesn't want us to leave." Her words sank into me like ice water. She hadn't said what, she'd said she, the black-eyed woman. And the moment she spoke, the lights flickered violently. The bedside lamp sputtered, then went out. The TV screen buzzed alive without being touched. Static filling the room, louder and louder, until it felt like the whole suite was trembling with it. I grabbed the remote, desperate to turn it off, but it wouldn't respond. The static only grew, shapes forming inside it. And then, her face appeared, pressed right against the glass. Those black pits where eyes should have been. Her skin pale and stretched tight, her mouth opening wider and wider until the screen almost seemed to bulge outward with it. My wife screamed, pulling the cord from the wall. The TV went black instantly, but the screen didn't stop. It was still there, coming from the closet. The same guttural, distorted wail we'd seen on the screen, now alive in the room with us. The closet door began to rattle, violently this time, shaking on its hinges. And before we could move, it burst open. Something crawled out. Not walked, not stepped, crawled. Long pale hands gripped the carpet, pulling a body that seemed too thin, too stretched, its limbs bending at angles that shouldn't have been possible. Her head tilted unnaturally as she pulled herself into the room. Her eyes, black, bottomless voids. Her mouth opened, and in a voice that wasn't human, she whispered, "You're mine." We scrambled backward onto the bed, but the air grew suffocating, crushing us with invisible weight. The sheets wrapped tight around our legs as if something was holding us down. My chest felt heavy, like I was drowning on dry land. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My wife clawed at my arm, her nails digging deep, trying to anchor herself in reality. The black-eyed woman crawled closer. Every movement was jerky, broken, like a puppet pulled by tangled strings. Her face hung inches from mine now, her skin gray and cold, her breath reeking of earth and decay. And then, she smiled. A smile that split her face wider than humanly possible. Behind her teeth, I didn't see darkness. I saw movement. Countless writhing shapes, like something alive inside her, trying to crawl out. Finally, my wife found her voice. She screamed, a piercing cry that seemed to shatter the moment. And just like that, the lights snapped back on, the weight lifted, the woman was gone. The closet door stood wide open, but it was empty. The sheets loosened around our legs, the air warmed again. It was as if nothing had ever happened. But deep down, we knew. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The silence after she vanished was worse than the noise. My wife and I sat frozen, barely breathing, our eyes locked on the open closet. Neither of us wanted to move. Neither of us wanted to be the first to test if she was really gone. Finally, I whispered, "We have to get out." My wife nodded, her face pale, her hands trembling in her lap. I grabbed our bags, though I don't know why, instinct maybe. As if clinging to something normal could protect us from what had just happened. We moved toward the door, step by step, like trespassers sneaking through someone else's house. When I reached for the handle, the metal was ice cold. My fingers went numb instantly. I pulled anyway. The door wouldn't budge. I twisted the lock, slammed my shoulder against it. Nothing. It was as if the door was welded shut. Behind me, my wife whispered, "She doesn't want us to leave." And at that exact moment, the lights went out again. The darkness was suffocating. Not just absence of light. It was heavy, pressing in, swallowing every outline of the room. I couldn't see my own hand in front of me. Then a sound. Click, 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 like fingernails tapping the walls. Slowly, deliberately, moving closer. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, shaking in my trembling hand. The walls, scratch marks. Fresh, deep grooves that hadn't been there before, running down the wallpaper like something had been dragged along it. And then the tapping stopped. The light from my phone flickered, glitched, went out. We were blind again. That's when the whisper came. Right between us, "Stay." I spun, swinging my phone like a weapon, even though it was useless. My wife clutched my arm so tight, her nails dug through my skin. I don't know what possessed me in that moment. Maybe raw panic, but I screamed into the dark. "You can't have US." The room responded. A roar unlike anything human, shaking the floor beneath us. The air turned cold, sharp, like knives against my skin. And then, silence again. The lock clicked. The door swung open by itself. The hallway beyond looked normal. Bright lights, soft carpet, the kind of generic hotel hallway that should have felt safe. But stepping into it felt like walking into a trap. We moved slowly, dragging our bags behind us, every sound amplified in the silence. The hum of the ceiling lights. The faint buzz of vending machines down the corridor. And then I noticed it. Every single door we passed was slightly open. Just a crack. And behind each crack, eyes. Not normal eyes. Black, bottomless, watching us, door after door. Dozens of them. My wife whispered, "Don't look. Just keep walking." We did. The elevator was at the far end of the hall. It felt like miles away. I mashed the button as soon as we reached it, praying for the ding, for those doors to open. Finally, they did. But the elevator was already occupied. Standing inside, facing us, was the black-eyed woman. The sight of her froze us in place. The black-eyed woman stood perfectly still inside the elevator. Her head tilted slightly, lips curled into that same faint, unnatural smile we'd first seen in the room. Her eyes, those endless black pools, locked on us, unblinking. The elevator doors started to close. Without thinking, I lunged forward and jammed my arm between them, forcing them back open. My wife grabbed my shoulder, panicked, whispering, "No, what are you doing?" "I'm not staying here," I hissed. I pulled her inside, dragging our bags. The doors slid shut behind us with a final metallic thud. And then it was just us. US and her. The elevator hummed as it began to descend. I tried not to look at her, but every instinct screamed that she was looking at me. Not at my wife, not at the floor numbers ticking down. Just me. Seconds stretched into lifetimes. Finally, I couldn't help it. I glanced at her reflection in the mirrored walls of the elevator. She wasn't standing still anymore. In the reflection, she was moving, crawling, her body twisted, bent backward at impossible angles, her jaw stretching unnaturally wide. But when I looked back at her directly, she was standing motionless, smiling like nothing was wrong. My blood ran cold. I whispered to my wife, "Don't look at the mirrors." But it was too late. She gasped, clapping her hand over her mouth. I grabbed her wrist, trying to steady her, trying to anchor us in reality. The elevator dinged, the doors slid open. We expected the lobby. But it wasn't the lobby, it was our hotel room. The same room we'd tried to escape. Same bed, same curtains, same closet. Only, it looked worse. The wallpaper was peeling, the carpet soaked and rotting. The bed warped, black stains spreading across the sheets. The whole place reeked of decay. I stepped back, shaking my head. No, this isn't possible." The woman stepped forward. She didn't walk. She glided, smooth, silent, her black eyes never leaving us. The elevator doors began to close again, but before they did, she leaned in, whispering words that seemed to echo inside my skull. "You never left." And then the doors slammed shut. The elevator lurched violently, dropping fast. My wife screamed, clutching me as the lights above us sparked and flickered. The numbers on the panel blurred, spinning down, not floor by floor but years. 2003, 1991, 1967. The air grew hotter. The walls rattled, groaning like they were about to split apart. And then, silence. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. This time it wasn't our room. It was the basement. Concrete walls, dim red lights flickering overhead, rusted pipes dripping water. And at the far end of the corridor, shadows, dozens of them. Figures standing motionless, men, women, children, all with eyes as black as hers. And they were all waiting for us. My wife whispered, "We're not leaving, are we?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because in my gut I knew. We had never escaped the moment we checked in. The air in the basement was thick, heavy. Every breath felt like inhaling dust and ash. My wife gripped my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin, but I barely noticed. Because I couldn't stop staring at them. The shadows. The figures with those endless black eyes. They stood silently in the corridor, their bodies faintly twitching, their heads tilting in unnatural angles, like puppets waiting for strings to be pulled. Men in tattered suits. Women in faded dresses, children clutching broken toys. And at the center of them all, her, the black-eyed woman. She stepped forward, gliding across the cracked floor, and the others seemed to shift, like waves parting for her passage. Her voice came, soft yet piercing, the kind of sound that burrows straight into your bones. "You shouldn't have come here." My wife whispered, shaking, "Please, let us go." The woman smiled wider. Those black eyes seemed to swallow the faint red light around us. "There is no going," she said. "Only staying." Behind her, the figures began to move. Slowly, methodically, closing the distance between us. The sound of bare feet scraping against concrete echoed through the basement. I pulled my wife back, stumbling toward the elevator. I slammed the button. Nothing. Dead. No lights, no response. The crowd grew closer. I spun around, searching desperately. That's when I noticed it. A door. half hidden behind a leaking pipe. Rusted, dented, but real. "This way," I hissed, dragging her toward it. The figures quickened. Their steps in unison now, their heads jerking with each motion, like marionettes controlled by some unseen hand. I yanked the door open and shoved us through. The stench hit immediately, mildew, rot, and something else. Something coppery. We found ourselves in a narrow tunnel. The walls were carved stone, old, far older than the hotel itself. "What is this?" my wife whispered. I ran my hand along the wall. Symbols were scratched into the rock, circles, jagged shapes, things I didn't recognize. And in the center of it all, smeared in something dark, one word repeated again and again. Her. The black-eyed woman's laughter echoed down the tunnel. Not behind us. Not ahead, everywhere. "She is the house," I whispered without meaning to. "She's the room. She's the hotel. She's been here forever." My wife pulled on my sleeve. "Keep moving." We stumbled forward, deeper into the tunnel. The air grew colder. The lights above flickered, bare bulbs strung haphazardly, buzzing like dying insects. Finally, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. And that's when we saw them. Bodies. Dozens of them, hundreds. Piled in corners, slumped against walls, scattered across the floor. Their faces were pale, drained, their eyes black and empty. Tourists, couples, families, people like us. And they were all wearing fragments of clothes from different decades. 1970s polyester, 1980s neon, 1990s denim. Every generation, every era. No one had ever left this place. My wife gagged, covering her mouth. I staggered back, nearly tripping over a skeletal hand. And then, from the pile of bodies, one began to move. A man, his face gaunt, his skin gray. He lifted his head, black eyes glinting in the dim light. His lips parted, and in a hoarse whisper, he said, "She won't let you leave." The black-eyed woman stepped into the chamber behind us. The others followed, their footsteps pounding in rhythm, a sick heartbeat that filled the cavern. She raised her hand. The bodies stirred, and slowly, they began to rise. One by one, the dead stood, their hollow eyes fixing on us. We were surrounded. Trapped. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't a haunting. This wasn't a curse. This was a feeding ground. The hotel, the city, all of it, built around her, built to bring her more souls. And now, we were hers. The chamber pulsed with a sick, unnatural rhythm, as though the stone walls themselves were alive, breathing, closing in around us. My wife clutched my hand, trembling, her eyes wide and wet with terror. The risen bodies shuffled closer. Their movements were jerky, broken, as though guided by invisible strings. Every face, every hollow stare, carried the same void, those bottomless black eyes. And at the center of it all, the woman watched us, silent, smiling. "Why us?" I shouted. My voice cracked, echoing across the cavern. "What do you want from us?" Her grin widened. "You came," she whispered. "That is enough." The crowd surged forward. I dragged my wife toward the far end of the cavern, my boots crunching over brittle bones. The stench was overwhelming. Rot, mildew, centuries of decay baked into the stone. "Run!" I yelled, though there was nowhere to go. The bodies reached for us, their fingernails jagged, their touch freezing. One clawed at my sleeve, tearing fabric. I ripped free, shoving it back into the swarm. We stumbled into another tunnel, narrower, darker. My wife's breath came in sobs beside me. Behind us, the laughter followed. That same piercing laugh bouncing off the walls, coming from every direction at once. The tunnel twisted and turned, endless like a maze designed to break the mind. And then, a door. Heavy, steel, marked with strange symbols. I threw myself against it, locked. "Help me," I screamed. Together we pushed, slammed, kicked, and finally, with a groan of rust and stone, it opened. We tumbled inside. It wasn't freedom, it was a chapel. Rows of pews lined with dust, a rotting altar at the far end. And above it, painted into the cracked stone wall, a mural. The black-eyed woman. She was depicted larger than life, arms stretched wide, shadowy figures kneeling before her. Her eyes had been painted with real pitch, still glistening after decades. This wasn't just her prison, it was her temple. "She's worshipped," my wife whispered, voice trembling. "All of them, they're her congregation." The door behind us rattled. The dead were coming. I scanned the room desperately. There a staircase, hidden behind the altar, leading upward. We sprinted, half dragging each other, as the door finally burst open. The horde poured in, filling the chapel with that suffocating presence. We climbed the stairs two at a time, hearts hammering, lungs burning. The steps spiraled higher and higher, the walls tightening until we were crawling more than climbing. Finally we reached it. A hatch. I shoved it open. We spilled out onto the rooftop of the hotel. The neon lights of Las Vegas flickered all around us, impossibly normal. As if the nightmare below didn't exist. The strip buzzed with life, laughter, music, car horns. No one could hear us. No one could see what was coming. The hatch slammed open behind us. The black-eyed woman rose onto the roof, her form gliding, her congregation spilling out like a wave of darkness. My wife clutched my arm, sobbing. "We can't outrun her." I turned, chest heaving, my mind reeling, and then I saw it. The edge of the roof, 30 stories down. Concrete, asphalt, the blinding glow of Vegas. It wasn't survival, it was a choice. Stay and be hers forever, or leap and take our only chance at freedom. I looked at my wife, her face streaked with tears, her eyes pleading, trusting me. Behind us, the woman's voice filled the night air, louder than the neon, louder than the city itself. "Jump if you like. The fall won't take you. You are mine." I grabbed my wife's hand. Together, we ran. The wind tore at us. The night swallowed us whole. And then, we leapt. For a moment, there was silence. Just the air rushing past, the city lights spinning, the feeling of absolute weightlessness. I didn't know if we were falling to freedom, or into her grasp forever. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't sure if I was alive or dead. There was no pain, no sound, no city, just silence. Then the world bled back into focus, neon lights, the smell of hot pavement, car horns in the distance. I was lying on the street. My wife beside me, groaning softly, clutching her ribs. We should have been dead. 30 stories, no one survives that. But there we were, shaken, bruised, alive, or so I thought. People walked past us, laughing, shouting, drinking. Not a single head turned, not a single hand reached to help. I pushed myself up, dazed, waving at the crowd. "Hey, please, help us." No one looked. It was as if we didn't exist. My wife clung to my arm, her face pale. "They can't see us," she whispered. "We didn't escape, we crossed over." And then I heard it, the laugh. Soft at first, carried on the desert wind. Then louder, clearer, closer. I spun around. She stood at the edge of the crowd, perfectly still, watching, smiling. Her black eyes glistened in the glow of the strip. I stumbled back, pulling my wife with me. "No," I muttered. "No, we jumped. We escaped you. We beat you." Her smile never faltered. "Vegas is mine," she said softly. And for the first time, I realized the truth. The flashing lights, the endless crowds, the noise, the chaos, the hunger that pulled people here. It wasn't chance. It wasn't greed. It was her. The city itself was her trap. The casinos, the neon, the promise of fortune and escape. All of it, bait for the countless souls who would wander in and never truly leave. We weren't the first, and we wouldn't be the last. My wife buried her face into my chest, trembling. "What do we do now?" I had no answer. Because when I looked back toward the black-eyed woman, she was gone. But I could feel her, watching, always watching. And sometimes when the lights dim just a little, when the strip falls quiet for a brief moment before the next wave of chaos, I swear I hear her laugh. And I know that someday, somehow, she's coming back for us. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying tales. Until next time, stay safe and don't look too long into the shadows.